All right. Welcome. Welcome
Okay,
back to the Tesla Community Channel. Yeah, we're here
awesome.
with we're here for episode 8, and we've got a lovely guest with us today, Wanda Hudson. We're just going to briefly just introduce ourselves and kick off another lovely conversation for you guys um, around the whole around Tesla and engineering, etc. Anyway, so I'm Claude Nelson. I'm a father of 5 here in London, UK. And Julian and we've started this channel a little while ago, and it's early days yet, and we are sort of finding our feet around the whole thing. But we're very keen to help support the conversation around Tesla and around just moving to a brighter future. So anyway, over to you, Julian.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so I'm Julian, and I've been a Tesla investor since 2017, drive a Model 3. And yeah, the overall idea of the mission statement of Tesla to accelerate the world's transition towards sustainable energy, that's what really drives me here into this conversation as well, and uh, makes me want to explore all the people who are also interested in um, yeah, helping to further this mission and making sure the future is positive for our children, our whole civilization. And that's why we have Wanda here today. So you may introduce yourself now.
Wanda.
I'm Wanda Hudson. I'm a Tesla shareholder, and I have a Tesla Model Y long range, and I'm also an FSD beta. But I'm inspired by Tesla's mission, and I want to, promote I and the good things about Tesla that people may miss or miss. So thanks for having me on your channel. I appreciate that.
Well, it's lovely to have you with us, Wanda. So yeah, so right to kind of dive right into what we want to discuss today. Um, first thing we're kind of thinking about is we want to get your opinion, Wanda, really around things like what makes the Tesla team successful, versus say various competitors and that sort, and you know potentially, especially in terms of what kind of pitfalls various companies are trying to avoid. Um, Ramping up of production instead of presenting prototypes, um, and economical EV design, that kind of thing. We're very keen to just open the discussion there and to just really understand your opinion and what pops in your mind when you think about these things.
I guess we could start with the first thing you mentioned of successful, and I mean I think it's a number of things, but one thing obviously is Elon is a visionary leader. And, I think it's good to strive for a clear sight. All of us try to do that to a certain extent, but certainly I got to the level that Elon has. He seems to have incredible insight. What the problems are of today are, and make a plan to fix those problems. But being a visionary leader and having like the just cause of sustainable engineering, um, I think that's a compelling mission that people can get, and to want to have clean air and renewable energy and the technology. And I think doing the electric that really gets a lot of people interested. But his vision and it so that engineers something positive for the planet. I mean, they're essentially changing the world in a positive way. They're having an impact, and I think that's a powerful thing to any engineer. And beyond that, I think culture of innovation, and that's something that happen automatically. I mean, I've been in engineering for 27 years, and you tend to see a lot of status-based organizations. System is focused on, essentially climbing a corporate, getting, the next promotion. And Elon is focused on, and that's where the reward system is the engineers are expected to innovate, and it's okay if they they just found, if they make a mistake, that's fine. Combination of things is not the correct answer, and they quickly modify and adjust and move to the next thing, and that is rewarded and expected. And I think that's is a lot different than at other would be. So I guess this culture of innovation, and then the way Tesla chooses to go about their goals, and I mean, I think that's a huge difference. A lot more, I guess, a lot more, and they do. I noticed that Tesla, like, very rapid changes, whether it be the software to the design of a component for a car. It may take other corporations a number of months to turn around in weeks.
Yeah.
So and other things with efficiency. I mean, Elon started as a software engineer, and software upgrade in an iterative approach, where, I mean, you write the code, you get the product out there, and you have a certain amount of functionality and performance. And, you continue to improve upon that based on what you learn. He seems to use the software development approach for hardware as well. Where they build the Model Y and they market it, but going back and refining and making changes, and for a whole year to the next model year to release features. It's just like tomorrow's Model Y is going to be, it's incredible the speed that they move at. My capability in the house is a big part of that. I mean, I've worked with that would have a capability like machining or tool and die making, and if you have the capability in house, you can turn it around much more rapidly than if you had to get a contract to sub that out to 4 weeks. And then you get to larger corporations where there's a lot of, I guess, bureaucracy, and it wants to do a very simple thing. It also drives the cost up, depending on
Yeah.
how many pass-throughs you have. You have their profit in addition, to the parent company. I don't know if I'm like answering your
No, that's great. Yeah, that's great. I mean,
some of the things you want to talk about.
yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah, everything you want to say about it is what we want to hear. Yeah.
Can I just um, expand on the point that what you said, Wanda, that the approach is not so much like a classical hardware approach, but more of a software approach, but for hardware, right? We have constant and a lot of iterations. I think this is so unprecedented, especially in the auto industry. As you said, there are like years. It takes a year to um, you know implement new features
Mm.
the traditional way. But
Yeah, the
yeah,
bureaucracy.
yeah, bureaucracy, everything. Also, the mindset of the people working there, and the way Tesla does it, or especially Elon Musk. I think he brought this into the company's culture because before that he worked made PayPal possible, right? Which is just pure software for sending money from one person to another without needing like a kind of an actual bank. Um, just a digital version of that. And I think he had this kind of epiphany that you could actually do this kind of work with hardware, but only if you make the culture of the company be aware of that this is possible, and this is also not only you could say allowed, but it's being promoted, right? People should do this and have lots of iterations and come up with new ideas. But this only works. Um, what I got to know from what is his name, Joe Justice. He has like deep insights into how Tesla's actually working because he worked there, and he's also advising companies to work in that way because he says every car with each little component is like wired so you can get back data from every part of the car, and so you have this software inside the cars that are self testing everything when they come off the line, and so they have this factory mode on, and then they're testing themselves and making all the legal requirements for testing on the car itself with software, right? Because everything's wired and where everything's integrated. And then legally, in the end, there just needs to be one human being who just signs off, okay, it worked for this car, everything's fine, and then it can go to the customer. I think that's really an awesome part of the company, and which is so unusual, I think, from the uh, traditional auto industry, at least from what I heard.
It's so true. It's so efficient. Seems to be a word that pops in my head at the minute, which is a big buzzword amongst engineers. And kind of leading to the next point we want to explore with you, Wanda, is from your perspective and in your experience, how did you cultivate the courage to step forwards towards your passion? And in this case, being engineering. The as being the example. And what tell us what lit your fire about engineering specifically? When you first explored possibility of entering that field.
Okay. Um, I guess I've always enjoyed math and science from a young age. By eighth grade, I would read ahead our science book before the class even got to the next section. I read a lot, and I guess I did well. I just decided to go to college and just continue what I knew how to do. And I mean, I thought going to like to college was like the, and at first I wanted to take just like all the classes. I was at different things, but of course the goal is to get, a marketable degree, meaningful. So I didn't have the time to take everything, but I read. I guess I read the entire university course catalog, and the math and science classes were the things that I was most interested in, and I just I had to pick something that was going to allow me to take the most that I could, and I ended up choosing chemical engineering. Allowed me. I had to take physics and a lot of math and engineering, graphics, computer, and all the chemistry classes. And so to me, that one was the most. I had to take electric circuits class. So I took that, and I guess for people to do is to just and determine like what your talents are. Are you interested in? What makes you happy? And it's really simplicity, but you hear Elon say the same thing, that you have to have reason to get up in the morning, something that inspires you. And for me, because I liked it, and the same thing, kind of transferred to the world. But I think that I guess what inspires you, what you enjoy doing, what you're good at, what you feel, and sometimes it's just a thought or a feeling or a recur that somebody might not really know what they want to do. You can feel compelled to go to a certain place. And for my father had taken me to Huntsville when I was very young, about 6 years old, to the in Huntsville, and I saw the Saturn V laying on the ground from just years before, and I guess I never quite got over the experience, and that was one thing that stayed with me. I interest, and had opportunities to go into like oil refiles, making carpets and stuff like that, and none of it really inspired. I decided to move to Huntsville, and the companies, I guess, represented in Huntsville at the time, and I thought surely one, needs my help, and so I didn't have like job, but I just I came up to the University of Alabama. I went to graduate school, and I chose material science because it was a multi program, and to know people and to know what was being worked on in the area, and eventually got a job. But I mean, you just have to, you have to be willing to take the risk. I've stayed in my hometown and got a job at a local store or something, but I was interested in something more, and I wanted to do something different. And so you really have to and just kind of be true to yourself. What do I enjoy? And it's kind of scary. I mean, when you look Elon to Canada at 17, and he had the vision to see some of the world's problems at such a young age and want to go tackle that. And for me, it was just it was about 100 miles, but but still, I think people should and do what they feel compelled to do.
And it's nice to be inspired by something like you mentioned about the Saturn V and how things stick with you. And I mean, I shared a personal story a few episodes ago about what inspired me to kind of track more deeply into following material to do with Tesla, SpaceX, etc. And yeah, it was also sort of satellites. Just seeing a string of satellites was just an inspirational moment. And yeah, it's I totally appreciate how those things stick with you and light your fire in a sense towards sort of following something. And then you find out about people like Elon, and you realize that actually we have the potential to push ourselves to excel beyond our what we believe to be our limitations and to enter areas that we might have thought wouldn't have been possible for us to get into. Um, and coming to another question actually for you, Wanda, is to kind of understand your opinion on how Tesla and SpaceX are kind of being recognized as the top ranking employment preferences for engineering graduates on like a global scale. What's your opinion about how and why it's so popular over probably over a myriad of other options, really?
So I think um, with Tesla, the allowed to solve the problems. Um, allowed to make changes and see the effect of what they've done in, in very short order, in a matter of weeks and months. And some very, it's technological, and it has a big impact for humanity. Young engineers, they want to change the world. They want to have a positive impact. They want clean air. They want sustainable energy. Sitting in a Tesla and having that organically integrates with all the software, developed. If you look at other car companies, you see, disparate components from different suppliers, and then try to join those things together with some software that has those components crosstalk or interact. It's nowhere near as elegant as Tesla's solution. Elon even has, his own engineers write the enterprise, for like time cards and drawing database and all that kind of thing. They have their own software. They don't go out and buy somebody else's and try to use it. But I just think, I guess they have a just cause to work for. They have problems, and they get to do so rapid. It's a lot different. I can tell I've worked for, you can't really say they're a SpaceX competitor. It's like you can make suggestions, but implemented, and the problems don't get fixed. They tend to put problem, band-aids are implemented, and rather than getting a clean and doing a new design or doing something that really makes sense, you just bolting on a new part to address something that occurs in the problem. I'm sure you can too, totally see how a young person would be inspired, by making humans a multiplanetary species to go to Mars and build a colony and even with the EVs and solar energy and everybody having a solar panel, it just makes perfect sense. Um, I think there's very tangible things that young people look and see. It's a no-brainer. They just see it and go, yeah, why weren't we doing that? 20, and they don't want to go to work for a company that essentially things that happened in the past. They want to do, they want to move to the future and have new and better things.
Well, that makes a lot of sense to me. And
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you also want to be challenged, right? If you go to work and it's
Absolutely.
just every day the
yeah,
same, and also there are no incentives to apart from just making more money if you level up in
mm,
the career ladder. Um, yeah, but at Tesla, I think the level of enablement is so incredible. Again, Joe Justice talked about how on day one you get like a smartphone with different apps, and you're free to actually start, ordering stuff. You can order equipment. You just start working on anything where you think there's a pressing issue. But they're also making these groups, kind of, or the kind of hot topic groups where you just join another team, and then you create a new one, and then you solve a certain engineering issue together with a team. But you're already enabled to not go to like your team leader and make a, I don't know, plea for you getting some funds to do it, but you can just do it,
start
right?
cutting through the bureaucratic red tape and all of that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. There
Right.
you're just
And I think you find pockets of that at other companies, but it's not the culture. Tesla, have it in their culture that, if you, I can imagine Elon coming in and you go, oh, I think we should do. And Elon, I think his attitude is always, well, why haven't you already done it? What was that? Please.
It's like, what was
And
stopping you?
right, yeah, to have that resource. I mean, to have
yeah.
rapid way to order materials to a project, that's key. And then that's something that a lot of corporations don't have. They've kind of tied their own hands with their acquisition systems.
hmm hmm
And I mean, you just have to be able to build stuff, to machine,
mm
have welders or have, and on the software end, have your program. I mean, Tesla goes pretty deep with designing their own chips. If the product that has the throughput or the performance that they want, then they go, oh well, make it like twice that capacity and do it like this. And they may still have somebody else make their chip, but it's their design.
Yeah. I'm not sure that many of us out here can really actually even comprehend the idea that they've designed their own chip, that they've gone to that extent of fundamentals to completely redesign the technology from literally from the ground up. It's astonishing just thinking about it.
Yeah, they will go wherever the limiting factor is, right? They even said they will go into
If they have to go
mining
mine, they'll go mine.
because if
yeah,
that's the
Being
limit,
refining.
we will do it.
yeah.
It's
Well, I certainly have
incredible.
a lot of respect for them. I can appreciate how I like what you're saying, Wanda. That can spark a lot of enthusiasm, especially in young minds that haven't been molded by company bureaucracy and policy and stuff. So they'd be thinking that would be the most sort of refreshing activity to get involved in, especially when I'm sure many youngsters must hear from their parents, etc., how terrible the working world is generally, you know. Yeah. Well, I'm going to leave this next point to you guys because I don't have a Tesla yet, just yet.
You mean with
Yeah,
the gigacasting?
asking this, I mean, talking to Wanda about her experience with FSD beta.
Yeah, yeah, we can do that.
Yeah, sure, we can talk about that. So I actually, when I got my Model Y, but you know, I was listening to, and you know, I I could never tell if the whole climate change thing, because it was so politicized here in the United States, and um, but as soon as I started listening to Elon, and he's like, well, the science is overwhelming. Then I knew we had two gasoline cars and a pickup truck, and we sold off. They have two Model Y long ranges now. But one for climate change, but also because Elon was saying he was going to release to more than just the original, beta testers, like originally 100 people, and they opened that, and so I got my Model Y in March of 2021. Need a new car at that point, and I thought, I'm gonna Elon, I'm gonna get on Twitter every day and tag him until he gives me. But there was a little bit of delay. I thought it was going to come out in March or April. It ended up being November when they went wide. I think it was 10.3.1. And we're really fortunate to have gotten it. And it hasn't since just a year ago. I got it, I think, first week of November 20. And I mean, I was impressed, initially when I pilot. I could go a really long ways without having to intervene. You'll hear a lot of people say that you feel less tired on trips, FSD beta or autopilot, and it's really true. I think we don't realize that our all the input our brain is taking and the micro adjustments we're making, that autopilot and FSD take care of. It is definitely true that that you feel more well rested when if you use it versus not. I guess autopilot works extremely well. No problems with it at all, like on interstates and state and U.S. highway. The city streets part, it works most of the time. I mean, of course, there's still some stuff that has to be worked out in the lines where you have all these little edge cases that they have to catch up to. And I'm not an expert, in all the AI part of it. That part kind of blows me away. I understand, the labeling and the vector space part, but then like the part of vision with AI, I don't really know. But I believe what Elon says, that it's going to continue to get, and it's going to accelerate. I guess the improvements are going to accelerate. But I don't know if you have specific questions about FSD beta.
Oh, I suppose at this point, just keen to understand how your experience with FSD beta has been going. I mean, we can now we can now see a lot of material out there about such a whopping great growing number of FSD beta testers putting great videos out there and everything, and it's amazing to watch. I mean, I just saw that on one of Zach and Jesse's now Tesla Time News videos earlier. They showed a skit that somebody sent in that basically showed how their FSD beta car pulled over to the side of the road to let another oncoming vehicle go past them because there wasn't enough space for two vehicles to pass each other. So it had seemed to have already be smart enough to make that decision to just sort of pull over to the side and wait for the oncoming car to come through and then carry on its way. And you could hear in the voice of the person who made the video, they were just so delightfully surprised to see that it was actually, because they were probably thinking they would have to intervene and take over and pull over the car over themselves. And that was just one of those, must be thousands of examples now popping all over the place about how incredibly fast the whole FSD suite is improving. Um, I think I personally also feel like it makes a lot of sense. There's just you can just see the trend line of improvement, and it does feel like the vehicles are going to be better than the average human driver pretty shortly. And it's um, every chance we get to speak to someone who's an FSD beta tester is awesome, because everyone's having different experiences. So, I mean, have you got any highlights in your own experience so far, like particular incidents or situations that you found where that you want to talk about?
I just kind of, I mean, it definitely does move over like the side of the road and things like that. And for pedestrians, animals, or in the road, it definitely slows. And I guess my experience with FSD beta, it was rather abrupt in the change when a car was pulling out in front or crossing the road in front of me, and then over time, as the iterations have gotten better, it's much more smoother and more human-like, and pretty much all the different operations does. It initially, when I first got it about that great, and now it's fluid. It's just, I don't know, it's amazing. It's amazing that all, and for it to continue to get better, that's incredible. It's an incredible experience.
Awesome.
Yeah. Also watching videos on YouTube, it's funny because they get more and more boring, right? It's just watching a perfect drive.
It's like watching rocket landings. Yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah, you can see people are just speeding up more and more parts of the videos because nothing really happens that is so interesting there, right?
It's becoming so like, yeah, I know those cars drive by themselves. Yeah, fine.
Yeah.
When I
astonishing. What?
I
see. Sorry, you were saying, Wanda.
When I first got the software, she told me I was crazy that no car was ever gonna, and I was like, well, it actually already does, partially, but I mean, I guess it is part of the population that maybe are not very technical or into technology, to it being able to do it, and it makes one little tiny mistake and you're like, well, why did that happen? It is it is beta. I have to realize it's not perfect yet.
Yeah.
It's getting really capable,
Mm.
and safety aspect of it, and how many lives we can save. It's like that. We almost have a moral imperative to go ahead and release. Might not be perfect, and you may have some corner incidents where people still get. If overall the number of people that get injured or killed, as a result, then it makes sense to go ahead and do a wide release of FSD.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And I mean, there were various discussions kind of ongoing about this now, about how we won't necessarily recognize all the good that is already happening as a result of just autopilot, or just that part of the software that that alerts the driver to a situation before it becomes a collision and that kind of thing. So no, it's very interesting.
Yeah, something interesting for me as a German. In Germany, we don't have FSD beta yet, but I can already see after owning the car for 2 years, and I have FSD, but it's very limited. Um, Especially on the autobahn, it just works with autopilot. It's like a usual way. It gets crippled over and over again by regulation, but it works really well. But for city street driving, you can already see that there are also improvements in the FSD software part, because um, when I got my Tesla with a FSD, I could barely activate it inside closed streets, or not closed streets, but more city streets where it's quite narrow, where there's you're just in a city driving around. But over the last 2 years, it's become more and more possible to just activate it, um, like in more and more places, and it works
Mm.
really well right now. And just with the newest release right now, it can detect so much more. It shows me more visuals of the traffic lights and all the cars going around. It doesn't look like FSD beta, but it's so much more capable. And I'm actually really impressed already now with this limited FSD, that you can drive into curbs and have like a interesting intersections where there are lots of lines on the ground, but it can already manage it for most of the parts. And this really gives me lots of confidence that it will be amazing already once it gets official in Germany as well. So it's really interesting to see.
Awesome. I'm super keen to see that kind of thing roll out in the UK as well at some point. I'm keen to try and get my hands on a vehicle next year. I don't anticipate that um, regula- regula- regulatory hurdles will be crossed by then. But yeah, I'm super keen to join the whole FSD world.
Yeah, it's
So
really a ride.
yeah,
Literally.
hey, I'm just watching Omar's videos that he keeps making about all of his drives he's doing, and it's just like um, yeah, it's like second nature now. But and yet I can't stop watching them. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah, he also
so
has this little experiment a few days ago, where he was an Uber driver, and he let people come into his car, and then he activated FSD beta to take them to another place in San Francisco.
right.
And in the end, he asked them whether they know that there was an autopilot driving. He wasn't driving, and they're like, "What? Really?"
That's brilliant. That's
They
brilliant.
didn't even notice.
That's
It's
awesome. Yeah,
incredible.
yeah. It's just Yeah, nice
At,
one.
at, at least one of them.
Hey.
Okay. Wanda, back to you. So you got a background in materials engineering as well, right?
Mm.
Yes.
So, what is your opinion on, or what has happened to produce the materials for the gigacastings? Because
Mm.
this is like the next level engineering where you don't have many parts, like 173 or what it was, and combined into one big casting that you have in the back, also in the front of the car. And what are your insights into that, especially with your background?
So, I mean, I don't know as to what alloys, Tesla is using or anything, but in terms and not having to have a lot of different parts at sense, um, obviously it meets requirements or they wouldn't be doing it. Um, it's a simpler design, fewer parts. Um, I would think it would speed me. Um, so, I mean, did you say they're having difficulty like getting like some of the parts for GigaCast or no? I
It it sounds like, well, it sounds like it sounds like it's been quite a difficult challenge in general to. It sounds like creating a casting of that nature as quickly as they do. There seem to be a number of risks involved. You're using the wrong materials, or the timing is out, or the temperature is out, or something. There's a sort of a warping factor post casting, and it sounds like they've had to get over a few of those hurdles and maybe even adjust the alloy and the whole process to make sure that when the casting is complete, that it's the right dimensions, that it doesn't warp or lose strength, etc. And on a from a materials engineering perspective, we're just keen to understand everyone who's in the field, everyone's opinion who's in the field. Um, and well, if you had to hazard a guess, I mean, would you say that looking at the chemistry and the of the alloy, etc., what pops in your mind about, wow, is that like something that can be done in your opinion, if you, even if it hadn't been done before, you know what I mean?
so so typically forged parts have better parts, but depending on what the loads are for the part and how it's going to be used, what the uh cycle fatigue looks like. I mean, I think I can, but, it's something that most companies would never attempt because the parts are so large. I mean, they're doing like front and rear castings, and I think becomes getting if you're using an alloy version of the alloying component, throughout the entire, so that you have you don't have areas that so I mean I can see how it would be really challenging with large castings and have the material be kind of, and I'm not sure how Tesla do that in terms of getting even heat and their alloy constituent. I'm not doing that.
Well, it seems like a real feat. I mean, I would imagine, the average person is probably, if they had to think about it, might start to wonder, why do you need a 60-ton or an 80-ton machine? and they would have no choice but to kind of delve into a little bit of the science to start appreciating the scale of the challenge. And like you say, it's actually a significantly large structure that is being produced from a liquid to a solid in a very, very short space of time. And that Tesla have such a high regard for safety, they can't be compromising on their safety standards for the sake of making the casting quicker. It has to still have the same strength that their safety standards require, and meeting all of the subtle, well, seemingly subtle requirements to produce that casting. Just it seems, well, I think probably to the average mind, it probably seems pretty overwhelming, to even know, like, where do you begin to even think about that? And that's incidentally, I wonder if that's kind of one of the things that kind of it goes over the head of people, like we get to big days and big presentations and yeah, recruitment runs essentially, like AI Day, etc. And a lot of information is shared that tends to kind of go over everybody's heads, and or over a lot of people's heads, or over the average, over the average public's doesn't kind of grasp the significance of what they're saying. And I suppose it's to be expected. But having the chance to dive into that world a little bit more and just dig around for videos where anyone and everyone is talking about it, and to just start gaining a picture about it, um, seems pretty invigorating in a way, to kind of want to understand it. Like, why is it so strange? And there must be a logical explanation. So diving into it, maybe even going and getting a material sciences degree or something, just to try and comprehend it must be like, this is a great catalyst, for producing the engineers of tomorrow in a way. And it kind of cottons onto the conversation could turn also towards similarly. I'm keen to understand your opinion on when Elon talks about they're making new alloys for Starship, and they keep bursting these tanks, that they fill with liquid nitrogen. Um, and it seems obvious that we're talking about strength of materials. Well, at least seems obvious to my mind we'll be talking about strength of materials. But what's your opinion there on the sort of the whole Starship challenge as well, and the way they're kind of trying to manipulate steel alloys?
So, so I found it interesting stainless steel for their skin to begin with. That would, use aluminum, or they would go with a like a composite if they wanted to try to save weight. But that gets to be really expensive. Um, so it was an eye opener to me that decided to do stainless steel to begin with, and there are certain properties they're looking for that weren't in before. There has to be there has to be some, it's either strength or cycle fatigue or some requirement that they're having to meet that the didn't optimize for their application, and so they chose to go and either change alloying elements or to get the properties that they were seeking. But it's pretty impressive, even from a fuel perspective. A lot of liquid engine companies would use liquid hydrogen, combination of LOX and liquid hydrogen, and SpaceX has chosen which I would think that would be easier molecule. Liquid hydrogen is um,
Difficult to contain.
but the hydrogen atom is so small. The hydrogen molecule is just two hydrogen atoms. There's very few materials that it can't just. So
Makes sense.
We're
Right.
nearly 1 hour in. Maybe we can come to the last
Yeah.
question.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I think there's cell phone in the background.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's fine. It's fine. It adds to the
We can dance.
we can.
Sorry.
It's
No
all right.
worries. No worries.
I had tuned it.
Yes. So, last question. So, we got to know each other on Twitter, and you're obviously one of the persons who are tweeting the most on the Twitterverse. as he just tweeted yesterday, right? There was this news about there are many people, or there are some activity from heavy tweeters that are being reduced in the numbers of interactions, but it's probably because of there are some spam bots or something that are being removed by the current board. But what we experience heavily, especially in the Tesla bubble, is again the amount of FUD that is going on, right? Fear, uncertainty, and doubt, where people are creating a narrative around EVs or Tesla in general, making you question everything, and especially to people who are not involved as much as we are into the whole company, they get scared away quite easily. So, what is your experience on Twitter with that kind of hateful, sometimes hateful tweets?
So I it and depending on how much time I have, the truth is best I understand it, or at least if I say it's just blatantly false, I'll respond and say it's not true. At least just because somebody who doesn't know, if they see that and only that, a different opinion or somebody saying at least that's not true, they may believe it. So I feel a certain amount of responsibility, to respond and to try to set the record straight. Mute and block are my friends. If I don't mind, somebody having a different, but if they're just obviously, spreading something that's false, then and then if they want to get ugly about it, I don't mind muting or blocking. It's, I don't know. I hate to block people because we don't have free exchange of ideas. We can't see what the other person is saying, or and I need to see that other perspective, so I can learn and grow. So it's really a balancing act, I guess, with having free speech and free exchange of ideas. I think people could do it in a respectful manner, though, and sometimes that's not the case. And then there's people who obviously have they have agendas for why they say what they do. Months and competing technologies or whatever.
Yeah.
And so there's but I just try to say what I know and what I believe to be. Do the best I can.
Yeah, exactly.
We're going to do the best we can. Yeah. Well, it's certainly,
But
especially at this. Yeah.
You guys seem to do a very good job of staying out of the fray. You don't have as much time and don't tweet as often.
We,
And I think Bob is staying out of the fray too. He tends to, and kind of redirect people that may be negative rather than engaging, in any kind of argument, which I think that's probably the better way to handle is that's kind of the way you would do with children. If they're doing something you don't want to distract them and redirect.
Well, speaking of children, I think that I mean, speaking of children, I think that's probably where we have a blessing in disguise of not really having massive amounts of time, to get onto Twitter, and can only kind of jump on when we have an opportunity to try and just join this conversation or that conversation. I really like what Elon was saying about how you sort of every time he takes a loo break, that's his Twitter time.
I know.
I think it's that must be the case for for a lot of people out there. But now as we see this potential change now on the horizon for Twitter to be taken over and to be transformed into something that promotes free speech and I'm really looking forward to the idea, like what Elon was saying about making it more fun as well. I'm certainly looking forward to it being an altogether better platform, and more effective, and maybe even the beginnings of something that can become something can be taken a bit more seriously, from a getting everybody's vote on various issues, or at least everybody's say on various matters, seems a hell of a lot healthier than all of the weird algorithms and things that we are all trying to dance around these days. Hopefully trying not to offend anyone, or trying not to say things that even things that aren't offensive, but getting blocked for them anyway. Trying to kind of come away from all of that. Well, it's kind of another kind of bureaucracy in a way, and yeah, but certainly appreciate how bold people have to be to kind of stand up to FUD and rude behavior and things on Twitter and in real life, for that matter. And we certainly have a lot of respect for the way you handle yourself, Wanda, in Twitter land.
Well,
it's
you.
and no, it's a thank you. It's it's just a pleasure to have met you on Twitter and to interact whenever we can, and it's been absolutely fabulous to have a chance to talk to you face to face. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. It's been a pleasure to talk. Yeah, and I enjoy interacting on Twitter. I have a lot of respect for Elon and what he's trying to do, and for the whole teams. And I think it's important. And I applaud what you're doing with your channel, to try to to get the truth out there and to get opinions and to give different people a chance to so thank you.
It's only a pleasure. It's only a pleasure to try and help in any way we can. It's just it's an exciting future ahead of us, and I'm much happier to help usher that in for our children and for the generations to come. And having an opportunity to speak to lovely people like yourself is just makes it all the more of just a stunning experience. So great, guys. I think that's us for this round. We'll see you when we see you on the next, as we expand on other topics, in the future.
Yeah. So thank you very much. and I'll end the stream now and have a good time.